We're going to be starting off with the Grass-type, Bayleef. Normally the Grass-type starter is the slowest of the 3 starters, and will focus on inflicting a bunch of status conditions on your opponent like Poison. Not so in this game. Bayleef is too high level to get those moves through leveling up, and there is no move relearner in this region. Instead, Bayleef plays a bit more like a powerhouse character, having Sunny Day in its moveset, which will allow you to use the move Solar Beam every single turn instead of having to charge up for it. So if you can teach it Solar Beam, it can be kind of a fun, spam-happy character. Downside, though, is that Bayleef is weak to Bug, meaning that if you intend on using one or both of your starter Pokemon, you are going to have a shared weakness right off the bat. And if you intend on using both your Espeon and your Umbreon, you're going to end up with half of your team weak to Bug in a game where you're using a third of your team in battle at any given moment. So that can be quite a nerfing factor that you'll want to keep in mind if you're thinking about grabbing a Bayleef. The Fire-type starter is actually probably the easiest to use of the 3. I say this because it benefits both offensively and defensively from Sunny Day because that boosts fire moves and nerfs water moves. Smokescreen, believe it or not, also is a pretty good move to have in double battles because you can have one Pokemon lower accuracy and the other attack. It's especially good in this particular game because they super stress the fact that you should catch all the Pokemon you can, and Smokescreen will make it a bit less annoying to be sitting in a battle for a long time against some of the harder to catch ones. On top of this, when Quilava is fully evolved, it has identical stats to Charizard, so if you ever used a Charmander back in the days of Red and Blue, you should be able to jump right into using Quilava because he plays almost identically. Also, eagle-eyed viewers will notice that Quilava has Charcoal for its hold item, which boosts the power of fire moves. Croconaw and Bayleef have their equivalents for their types, which means that if you don't intend on using a Johto starter, you should still pick the one that has the item you want on it, because they will always have these items equipped to them when you snag them. So if you intend on using a grass type later on that is not Bayleef, and you don't really care about using Quilava or Croconaw, it'd definitely be in your best interest to catch a Bayleef, because that would be a free Miracle Seed that you can equip to your grass type later on. Kind of a nice little strategy you can do. The water type starter, Croconaw. This is probably the most balanced choice. Water types are fantastic in double battles, especially this one because it has Rain Dance and Surf. Just be forewarned that Rain Dance is in the slot that Shadow Rush occupies, so you won't be able to get it right away. All moves that are in the first slot are not readily obtainable because Shadow Rush takes up that first slot for a while. However, Surf will hit both of your opponent's Pokemon in a double battle, which is always nice. And on top of that, this is prior to the changes that were made that make Surf also hit your ally in battle, so you don't have to worry about that. If you want to pick up Croconaw, it's pretty much got a good spot on any team. Normally, I would kind of not like the fact that we are catching a Furret. Normally, I would say it's not very good, but remember, this is a game with very limited options, only about 50 Pokemon in this game. Furret is one of very few normal types in Colosseum, one of, I think, 3 or 4, and it's actually not too bad. As you see, its starting moveset has Strength in it, and having Strength that gets the same type attack bonus, because of course if your move is the same as your type, you do more damage, 1.5 times to be exact. It's actually not that bad. It's actually pretty good to have early on, and I find that it actually does one-hit a lot of stuff very early on, so I would recommend picking this up if you want something like that, even just temporarily. However, I will recommend one thing about picking this thing up. Make sure you don't have Runaway for your ability. I would make sure you have Keen Eye, because every single battle in Colosseum is a trainer battle. So, when everything is a trainer battle, what does Runaway do? Absolutely nothing! Great game design, eh, guys? Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking, but for some odd reason, Runaway wasn't given another effect in Colosseum. Noctowl is a bit interesting. This is a flying type, normal flying type to be precise, because there's no such thing as a pure flying type, at least not in this game. It's a bit interesting. It has the HM move Fly, which will make it immune from damage for one turn and then attack the next turn, which can be kind of nice in double battles against the AI. It also has Reflect if you don't want to use your Espeon. It's a nice option for that. And of course, Hypnosis is a great move in a game where they are really stressing for you to catch every Pokemon you can here. So, it's pretty versatile. It doesn't have the greatest stats in the world, but remember, Colosseum has limited options, so it might be a good thing for you to pick up if you are looking for a flying type early on, or something that can just use Hypnosis. Ledian! If you couldn't guess by the tone of my voice, Ledian is less than awesome by quite a bit. It's less than awesome and then some. It's a generic bug flying type with terrible stats, incredibly generic moves that really fail to make it stand out, and I have never liked this thing. On the plus side, it's a superhero, but I can't really think of any way to recommend this thing. there are much better bug types. Heck, even the bug types she's using that are not Shadow Pokemon have more potential than Ledian does. I'm not saying that it's unusable, but do you really want Comet Punch? I don't know. I can't really think of any particular reason why you'd want to grab Ledian over another bug type. Ariados! This is a Shadow Pokemon that I really think should have been given to you when you fought that Cypher Peon back in the Under. I don't know why they did it this way, but hey, and oh, Hyper Mode. First time we've seen that in a while. Brings back memories of Pyrite Colosseum. But anyway, Ariados is a poison bug type. You know that I generally like poison types quite a bit, and that, you know, I think they're kind of underrated, that I do like poison status, I do like resistance to fighting, I do like a lot of little things about poison types. Plus, I generally like their abilities. I mean, Poison Point's really mean, Toxic Spike is a fantastic move, even though it's not in this game. And Ariados, it's kind of a general poison type. I think there are better around here, but I think you can find better in this game. But hey, maybe you might want to pick one up if you have still not picked up a poison type yet and you've wanted one for a while. Togetic, the final Shadow Pokemon of all, is really not all that great. It's a normal flying type with a few interesting options. I mean, it's got Sweet Kiss, it's got Charm. You know, a little interesting, I suppose, in those respects. But it's not until it got its evolution of Togekiss in Generation 4 that it became a real threat. So, in its current state, it might not be anything special, but if you can purify it and you can transfer it over to another game, well, there you go. You have yourself one of the best tanks that competitive battling has ever seen, as well as some really cool options for moves like Aura Sphere, which did not exist at this point in the series. Unfortunately, mine seems to have Hustle. Serene Grace is definitely the better of the two abilities. Instead of lowering your accuracy for power, you have a higher chance of, you know, getting secondary effects to activate when using moves like Flamethrower for burn and that kind of stuff. Anyway, you've probably used a Flaaffy at one point or another. It's the standard early electric type for Johto, and it's no exception here, as it's probably your earliest option that you would want to grab. Though you might be familiar with it, I will warn you that Flaaffy is very on the slow side for electric types that are generally fast. So if you're looking for a fast special attacker, Flaaffy will not come through for you in that department, but it does have some nice moves early on. It's all you're going to find for an electric type for a little while. It can have Sturdy or Rockhead for its ability. Rockhead will prevent flinching. I personally recommend... Well, actually, no, I'd recommend Rockhead, though, because this is... Remember, this is prior to Sturdy getting buffed. Sturdy, later in the series, got the ability to prevent being taken down in one hit instead of just outright preventing one KO move, so I'd go for Rockhead, personally, even though flinching shouldn't happen all that often to it. It's a decent enough rock type. Again, Colosseum, like I've said many times, has limited options, so... This is going to be probably the earliest decent rock type you're going to be able to get your hands on. It's got some interesting moves, it's pretty damn defensive, so those are mainly the roles that it's going to be fulfilling if you do grab it. Skiploom. This is your alternative if you did not snag Bayleef. This is the other grass type that is available early on. Unfortunately, even though Skiploom has Sleep Powder, which is kind of nice for people that wanted those moves on Bayleef and were disappointed that Bayleef didn't get them, pretty much its main draw is that it's fast. But I don't like Skiploom's type. I don't like grass flying. It's very glaring. I mean, I hate being weak to rock when I'm a grass type, and I should be able to take out rocks quite easily. I'm also not too big of a fan of Skiploom's move pool. It's not a terrible Pokemon. I'm pretty sure you can still find use for it. Aipom, a Shadow Pokemon. This is another case of a Pokemon that I would highly recommend if it evolved. It's a shame that it doesn't, because Ambipom is a fantastic Pokemon, but unfortunately this one does not evolve in this game. Aipom is kind of a less than awesome normal type. It's definitely, I would say, the weakest of the normal types that you get in here, because I at least was able to think of redeeming qualities for Stantler. But for this one, I can't really think of much to say about it, really. It's just really generic. Didn't have much that set it apart until it got an evolution, of course, and that evolution just doesn't really seem to exist here. Doesn't really have any outstanding moves that you can get in other normal types, like Strength. Doesn't have Intimidate. I don't know. Maybe you can think of some use for it, but I'm just not seeing one right away. So there's better normal types, even with Colosseum's limited options. Sunflora. This thing is... it's a grass type. It has grass moves. My problem with it is that it's so slow and really frail that it has a really hard time holding its own no matter where I seem to use it. I've never really known much of anyone to use Sunflora. I've tried using them in single-player experiences before, and I never really liked them Plus, I don't think I've ever seen one used competitively, even back when I used to play tournaments. It is kind of frail. Unfortunately, Yanma does not really evolve in this game. It evolves in later installments of the Pokemon series, and if it did, I would highly recommend it. Yanma, being a bug-flying type, has quite a few weaknesses as well. However, its main draw is the fact that it has speed boost for its ability. The fact that you gain speed at the end of every turn can make it a bit of an appealing choice, especially in a game with limited options. So if you're looking for something kind of fast and you like the ability of speed boost on Ninjask, granted, Yanma will not do the same job as Ninjask, you know, being kind of the Swords Dance user, but, you know, it's still decent enough. If you if you want to have a bug type, it's available pretty early on, and speed boost is always a nice ability. It could potentially have Compound Eyes also for its ability, but I would recommend picking up one with Speed Boost more so than Compound Eyes, to be perfectly honest. Quagsire, getting into it. It is a very defensive Pokemon. It has one weakness, Grass, because it's water and ground, which is a very nice type indeed. A lot of people are a fan of this type, and so am I. Only thing about Quagsire, though, even though it's very defensive, it's great for offense in this game as well because it will get the move Surf just like Croconaw did. So if you didn't pick Croconaw back in Phenac City, this is actually kind of a good Pokemon for you. Aside from that, though, I just would recommend that if you're going to pick one of these up, you make sure it has Water Absorb and not Damp. Damp will only prevent the opponent from using Self-Destruct or Explosion. Water Absorb will make it so that it is healed from being hit by water attacks. It's pretty dang clear which one is going to see more use in general battles. Espeon, a Psychic type. Now, no need to talk about evolution because it's already fully evolved. I'm noting its starting moveset. It's going to seem kind of silly at first, but just trust me on this. Starting movesets are actually quite important in Colosseum. It'll become apparent why a bit later. But what's more important here is how Espeon actually performs, which is, it is a very fast special attacker. It's going to be doing a lot of damage with moves like Infusion, like what I'm using right here. And Espeon actually has the highest special attack of any Johto Pokemon, period. So, you got yourself a really solid starter Pokemon right here. Espeon is always gender locked into being male, so anyone calling me out saying the gender ratio is a mistake, it is not in this particular game. So, very fast, gonna do a lot of damage. Counterpart Umbreon is the complete and total opposite. It's good at taking hits, but will not be dishing out much damage. It's kind of a shame because it doesn't really get too many moves to support its playstyle. It's good at taking hits, don't get me wrong, but I find a lot of the turns it just uses Bite because there's nothing better to do. There are good moves you can teach it, and I will be getting into them later on, but for the time being, Umbreon doesn't have too much of a use in the team. What is nice, however, is that they both have Synchronized for their abilities, so if an opponent tries to poison you or paralyze you or anything like that, it will do the same to the opponent automatically. It's a passive ability. What is not nice is that they both share a weakness to Bug, and even though you won't be battling many Bug types in the game, that's kind of weak that both of your starter Pokemon have the same weakness. Murkrow is another case of a Pokemon that I think would be better if it evolved in this game, but unfortunately Honchkrow did not exist when Colosseum was released. It's an interesting Pokemon to say the least. It is dark and flying, so physical and special, since dark used to be special, at least when this game came out it was. So it's... yeah, I can't really say one way or the other if I necessarily like that about it or not. It does have Fly, you know, it does have an HM move in a game that doesn't have HMs normally obtainable within it, so maybe that appeals to you, maybe it doesn't. As see there, it did outspeed my Typhlosion, so perhaps maybe you might like its speed. I don't recall it being particularly fast, but I could be wrong, but you can check for yourself how fast it is on screen, and wow, it missed! But yeah, Murkrow's just kind of one of those... Are you serious, Insomnia? Murkrow's just one of those Pokemon that I tend to not think about a whole lot, just because it was kind of painfully average before it evolved, but, you know, want a Dark type for your team. I suppose it's getting to be kind of late in the adventure, and maybe you might want to pick something up like that. I don't know. Now, a lot of people don't like Misdreavus and say that it's one of the weakest Ghost types. Guess what? Misdreavus is the only Ghost type in all of Pokemon Colosseum that you can catch, so if you don't like it and you want a Ghost type, you better get used to it! In all seriousness, though, in Colosseum, options are limited, and as a result of that, if you want a Ghost type, you might as well grab Misdreavus. Levitate's great to have in a double battle, as you're immune to ground type moves, and Earthquake will hit your ally. In fact, it would complement most ground types quite well. It's also not bad to have for Confuse Ray, should you not want to use Umbreon for that. So, if you're looking to replace your Umbreon with something and you want something that's kind of interesting, I suppose you can grab this. Forretress! Saying this straight up, if you want a wall in Pokemon Colosseum, this is the best you're going to do. Forretress is a Pokemon that is meant strictly to wall. It has very little offensive capabilities. At least in this game. So moves such as Trick Room and Power Trick and stuff like that didn't exist at this time. It is strictly a wall. And as such, you might think it's bad for single player, but remember, you do have 2 Pokemon out at a time, meaning that you can, indeed, have a wall out and see some use out of it. It's got some interesting moves like spikes, and can be used for some really nice utility-like purposes, I suppose is the best way I can put it.